Ukrainian aerial reconnaissance units have detected and targeted Russian military trucks and various vehicles used by soldiers in Russia's Kursk region. Kamikaze drone strikes destroyed KAMAZ and Ural military trucks carrying ammunition and personnel, as well as UAZ military vehicles and other transport used by the occupiers. Seeing the drones approaching, the Russian troops abandoned their vehicles and tried to flee. Explosions from the drone strike set the ammunition trucks on fire, creating additional danger for other vehicles on the road. Ukrainian troops on Thursday destroyed a large number of Russian military equipment in a successful counteroffensive in Dobrapilya city in embattled Pokrovsk district in eastern Donetsk region. At least 9 Russian armored vehicles were destroyed and 4 more were damaged as the Ukrainian army's Azov forces repelled Russian attack with the combined use of drones and artillery strikes. Russian forces launched a large-scale mechanized assault on Okeratyne direction of Dobrapilya between 5:30 and 8 a.m. on October 16. The attack involving 22 armored vehicles was aimed at the capture of Shakhov settlement. The largest Russian column consisting of 11 units of tanks and armored fighting vehicles advanced from the area of Malinivka around 7:50 a.m. The Russian attack was repelled by air assault troops, drone units of Azov Brigade. Pokrovsk has long been one of the centers of the heavy battles, with Ukrainian forces trying to slow down Russian advances in the strategically important city. Being a key supply center, Pokrovsk serves as a critical junction where multiple highways and a major railway line linking key cities in eastern Donetsk are located. The General Staff of Ukrainian Armed Forces reported today that the Ukrainian Army has liberated 182.8 square kilometers of territories and cleared 230.1 square kilometers of Russian sabotage and reconnaissance units during Dobrapilya operation in Pokrovsk.
Kazakhstani customs have tightened inspections of cargo arriving from China bound for Russia and Belarus, seeking to detect goods subject to Western sanctions. For Russian and Belarusian logistics companies, this has resulted in a collapse, increased tariffs and forced revision of supply routes. According to the Russian portal lenta.ru, kilometers-long queues of over 2,500 trucks traveling from China have formed at the Kazakhstan-Russia border. Shipments of electronics, drones, clothing, and Western brands have been particularly targeted. Representatives of logistics companies report that the situation has worsened since the beginning of October, with borders turning into massive traffic jams. Mass inspections have forced carriers to raise rates and change logistics. Now, questionable cargo is shipped via the Far East and Mongolia, although these routes are longer and more expensive. However, queues are possible there, forcing carriers to seek any alternative. Logistics companies are confident that this is not a temporary glitch, but a new reality, and predict a further tightening of the screws by Kazakhstan, which is beginning to more strictly enforce Western countries' restrictions against Russia. The tightening of inspections coincided with a series of talks between Kazakh President Kassym-Jomart Tokayev and US President Donald Trump. On September the 7th, Tokayev stated that he was ready to constructively discuss trade issues and hoped for the abolition of the 25% US tariff on Kazakh goods. Earlier, Kazakhstan's Deputy Prime Minister Surik Zumangarin emphasized that the country would not assist in circumventing anti-Russian sanctions, as this could have a painful impact on its own economy. Experts estimate that if the situation persists, the cost and delivery time of Chinese goods to Russia could increase significantly. Carriers predict that some flows will shift to sea and rail routes, placing additional strain on Far Eastern ports. Media previously reported that in September, information emerged about Europe's readiness to consider imposing sanctions against Kazakhstan for re-exporting prohibited products to Russia. The European Union is considering imposing sanctions against Kazakhstan for the first time for re-exporting banned products to Russia. According to Bloomberg, the new package of restrictions could include companies from Kazakhstan, China, and other countries that help circumvent Western bans and supply the Russian military-industrial complex. Kazakhstan, which has built a business on reselling goods in defiance of sanctions, risks being targeted. If the EU takes action, it will ban the supply of machinery and equipment to the country, which is then shipped en masse to Russia for weapons production. This would be a real blow to Kazakhstan's economy. An attempt to profit from Moscow's weakness is proving catastrophic. Experts note that President Tokayev values his international reputation highly. The impact of sanctions, if they occur, will be painful for him personally. The introduction of secondary sanctions is being discussed with Washington. U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent has explicitly stated that pressure on Russia needs to be increased, but this requires European support. According to Bloomberg, the sanctions list could also include banks and oil companies, restrict the export of chemicals and dual-use goods, and punish Chinese companies assisting Moscow. The package could complement measures against Russia's shadow fleet vessels and ban reinsurance for tankers transporting Russian oil.